In this video, we're going to look at the real life case of a lottery winner who made one of the greatest money mistakes I've ever seen. And she likely fumbled literal generational wealth in the process. So this is a real life story. There's a 20-year-old woman. They were calling her Brenda. She wins the lottery and she gets the choice of taking a lump sum amount up front or installments over time. So she was given the choice, $1 million up front, lump sum payment, or $1,000 a week for life. For life sounds like a pretty long time, especially considering she's 20. But just know that if the government is offering you a deal like this, that sounds too good to be true. It probably is, because in this case, the government clearly knows what Brenda doesn't know, which is that the real purchasing power of her $1,000 a week is going to drop like a rock over time. It's pretty much the same reason the government loves to get in so much damn debt. They want to spend money that's not theirs today. They want to borrow it from you and pay it back in the future with newly printed money that's worth less than it was when they first took on the debt. But back to Brenda. I'm going to show you what she did and how she screwed it up in just a second. Real quick, you're watching the Sat Stacker Show, a Bitcoin show for people who think deeper about money. I'm your host. My name is John, aka the Sat Stacker, aka Sat Man in a Little Coat. If you want to learn to stack smarter and grow your conviction in Bitcoin, hit the subscribe button. And let's find out how this poor lady ended up as another cautionary tale of a lottery winner who blew it big time. Needless to say, Brenda's mistake, she chose the $1,000 a week. She apparently said that the weekly income felt safer and offered more long-term stability. Whoopsie. Maybe she's bad with money, she didn't trust herself, or maybe she just can't do math. I don't really know. But this is exactly why it's so important to educate yourself about money and finances. Become financially literate, develop some level of financial responsibility as early on as you can. Please, for God's sake, teach your children about money, because if you don't, they might end up, like Brenda, fumbling massive opportunities along the way. And that's not just about the lottery, by the way. That's basically literally true of everyone. The earlier you start learning about money and you start saving and investing, the more it benefits you because of the magic of compounding. So you could save just a few $1,000s for your kids when they're young, and that could end up paying for their entire retirement decades later. So maybe Brenda thought she was taking care of her long-term future when she took the $1,000 a week, but let's find out where she went wrong. So obviously, the quick math, she's locking in $52,000 a year for life. That $52,000 a year isn't even really going to keep her from having to get a job right now, much less help her retire anytime soon. But here's the real damage that Brenda doesn't understand. And that's that inflation is a bitch. We know they say it's only 2% per year. And if that were true at 2% per year, the real value of a dollar is cut in half every 35 years. 35 years from now, Brenda's $1,000 a week only buys $500 worth of real stuff. But of course, inflation is not actually 2% per year. Since 1971, when we in the US went off the gold standard, the actual yearly average CPI inflation is almost double that at about 3.9%. And that 3.9% cuts the value of your dollar in half every 17 years. But of course, that's also not where the story ends either, because CPI is a manipulated joke of a metric that's designed to underreport the real increase in prices. So I prefer to look at something a little more objective, which is the growth in the money supply. How much are they growing the money supply and diluting the real value of your dollar? Since 1971, the M2 money supply in the US has grown about 35 times. That implies an actual average inflation rate closer to about 7% per year, which means the value of your dollar is cut in half every 10 years. So what poor Brenda doesn't know is that by the time she's 30, her safe, secure, long-term stability lottery winnings only actually buys her $26,000 worth of real goods and services in a year. Remember, she could have taken the $1 million today, but instead she took $1,000 a week. At $1,000 a week, it takes almost 20 years to get to $1 million. By the time that 20 years has gone by, her $52,000 a year will have the real purchasing power of about $13,000. Her $1,000 a week has the purchasing power of $250. After 30 years, her $1,000 a week has the purchasing power of about $130. It buys less than $7,000 worth of real stuff every year. If Brenda and the government both actually even make it another 50 years, her safe, stable payout will have lost more than 97% of its real value. She'd be lucky if it buys $30 worth of stuff in a week. This story legitimately makes me sad. It's bad enough seeing how much the government is going to screw her over and dilute the value of those winnings, and all the rest of us too, by the way. But what's really going to hurt is seeing what the $1 million could have done for her if she took it today. In Canada, I heard they don't even tax the lottery winnings, so she actually could have taken home the full $1 million. If you read about this story online, what you'll see is most mainstream media reports or financial advisors commenting and saying, oh, she could have put the $1 million into low-cost, market-based index funds at a projected 7% annual growth rate. She'd have about $2 million just a decade from now. And yeah, that's not bad. In 20 years, she'd have over $4 million. Definitely compared to the slow death of fiat dilution of her $1,000 a week, having $4 million in 20 years sounds pretty damn good. But let's get to the real punchline. This lady could have and should have taken that $1 million today and bought the most scarce, desirable asset humanity has ever known. She could have traded those dirty, debasing, useless fiat, Federal Reserve, central bank, cuckbuck IOU tokens for the hardest and best form of money that's ever existed. Global, borderless, permissionless, decentralized, censorship-resistant, peer-to-peer digital sound money. Like gold, but if gold could be digitized, dematerialized, and optimized for life in the internet age. Bitcoin, baby. Bitcoin. The greatest invention, the greatest discovery of our lifetimes. The best form of money that's ever existed. At today's prices, Brenda could have gotten over 11 Bitcoin. So let's see the math on what the orange coin can do, not the low-cost index funds. Remember, this woman is only 20 years old. Forget the stupid $52,000 a year. Just get a job, get any job, do whatever you got to do. I don't care. Put the Bitcoin away, forget about it, work for just a decade, and let me show you what that Bitcoin could do. If Bitcoin does what can legitimately be considered a conservative estimate of 20% compound annual growth rate over the next 10 years, that Bitcoin would be worth over $6 million. But 20% average annual growth is really nothing for Bitcoin. Michael Saylor is projecting an average of 29% over the next 20 years. At 29%, she has over $12 million worth of Bitcoin in a decade. For context, over the last 5 years, Bitcoin's average annual growth rate is closer to 55 or 60%. Do you understand now the bag that this woman fumbled? Take the conservative 20% annual growth rate again and project it out for 20 years. This woman could have $38 million. She'd be 40. You might think that that growth sounds completely absurd, but it's really not. That implies a $3.5 million Bitcoin in 2046. A total market cap for Bitcoin of 70 trillion. Sounds like a large number, but it's really not that outlandish. Gold today is about 30 trillion. Bonds, equities, real estate, cash balances, each of them today is worth far more than 70 trillion. Bitcoin just has to eat a small percentage of each one of those asset classes to reach that market cap. Instead of $38 million, this woman's going to have what amounts to $13,000 in a year. It's just brutal. Please, no one show her this video. That would be cruel and unusual punishment. But forget her, all right? Put her to the side. Forget the lottery thing. The point stands for all of us, no matter who you are or how much money you have today. Saving in one system absolutely obliterates you. It's designed to obliterate you. It only benefits you if you're the one who prints the money or you spend your whole life getting into as much debt as humanly possible so you can spend money that isn't yours and then pay it back with money that's worth less in the future. If you're just a normal ass person who wants to work, create value, and store that value in something that doesn't degrade faster than a bag of avocados, then the only real choice is obvious. You exit the system of lies, manipulation, corruption, and control. You opt out of that one and you opt into a new system designed to protect and preserve your wealth and your purchasing power over time. As the rest of the world gets more and more productive and more of the population comes to the realization that Bitcoin is better money than the crap they're using now, all the benefits of that productivity and that adoption accrue to you in the form of greater and greater purchasing power. And instead of looking back and cursing your 20-year-old self for not understanding how money works, you'll be lying somewhere on a beach in the hot sun, eating red meat and cursing seed oils as your kids read the Bitcoin standard projected onto the inside of their eyelids. So, YouTube algorithm, do your thing and send this video to any recent lottery winners. Brenda in Canada, unfortunately, cannot be saved, but hopefully the rest of you don't have to make her same mistake. If you want to continue to learn how to stack smarter and grow your conviction in Bitcoin, you hit the subscribe button. You watch this video right here. You can zap me sats via your Lightning wallet using the QR code on the screen. And never forget, quit slacking and start stacking.